Can sexual abstinence truly transform your life, or is it a dangerous myth that could harm your well-being? Today we will unravel 5 major misconceptions about sexual abstinence, and you will discover truths that could completely change your perspective. Hello and welcome to this new video where we explore together the true consequences of sexual abstinence on your physical and mental health. I am your health guide, and today we will examine each myth with a rigorous scientific approach. You will discover for each point whether it is true or false, in which specific cases, and most importantly how it can affect you personally. If this approach suits you and you want to support our mission to democratize access to sexual health care, then subscribe right now and activate the notification bell. Your support gives us the strength and energy necessary to continue producing this quality content and help even more people regain a fulfilling sexual life. Every subscription counts enormously to allow us to reach and help more people who need it. Now that these essential elements are established, let us explore together the core of the subject about sexual abstinence. Here are 5 statements that we regularly hear concerning sexual abstinence, both in men and women. For each of them, we will determine together whether it is true or false. I encourage you to mentally note your answers for each question I will ask, and at the end, share in the comments if you had anticipated all the correct answers. First statement: sexual abstinence provides more mental energy and significantly improves the ability to concentrate on important aspects of existence. In your opinion, is this statement true or false? In reality, it is true for some people and completely false, even counterproductive for other individuals. Allow me to clarify this important nuance. There are people for whom having an active sexual life, experiencing libido, having sexual intercourse and orgasms will trigger hormonal secretions that cause a sensation of fatigue and slowdown. These people will indeed benefit from a reduction or temporary cessation of their sexual activity. Conversely, you have other people for whom a regular sexual life that is fulfilling is synonymous with better mental momentum, increased energy and optimized concentration capacity. There is therefore no universal rule, and it is impossible to predict in advance what the individual consequences will be for each person. Second statement: sexual abstinence causes serious health problems. Notably, it would increase the risk of breast cancer in women, prostate cancer in men, lung cancer and other digestive cancers. If the subject of cancer particularly interests you, I invite you to consult my previous videos on prostate cancer, which will help you better understand the complex links between lifestyle and certain types of cancer. Concerning sexual abstinence specifically, there is no serious scientific study that has demonstrated that it increases health risks. Where does this widespread idea come from then? This belief stems from the fact that conversely, we have numerous studies that demonstrate that having a regular and fulfilling sexual life is indeed beneficial. Moreover, we often forget to mention the term fulfilling. It is not enough to have frequent sexual life, it must also be satisfying and balanced. This is precisely why I strongly encourage you to consult if you encounter sexual difficulties, because sexual fulfillment is as crucial as the regularity of activity. Scientific studies have indeed shown that a regular and fulfilling sexual life is associated with better cardiovascular state, strengthened immunity and possibly a decreased risk of certain cancers. However, this absolutely does not mean that the absence of sexual life will automatically trigger these diseases. To illustrate this nuance with a simple analogy, we know that attending shows, listening to music, walking in nature is beneficial for our health, both mental and physical. But if we do not practice these activities, it does not mean that we will develop cancers or other serious pathologies. The principle is similar for human sexuality. So to summarize clearly, sexual abstinence does not cause health disorders and has no direct consequences on the potential diseases that a person could develop. Third statement: sexual abstinence can be the direct cause of the appearance of sexual disorders later. Some people claim that abstinence that is too prolonged will cause erectile problems, ejaculation issues, orgasm difficulties in women, desire disorders or arousal problems. Is this statement accurate in your opinion? Do not forget to tell me in the comments if you had anticipated all these answers correctly. This statement is false, except in 2 or 3 specific situations that I will detail now. Moreover, we regularly observe these particular situations on our teleconsultation platform with numerous patients who consult precisely for these cases. Let us take the example of a man who presents some risk factors such as slight overweight, tobacco consumption, progressive sedentary lifestyle, who is going through a period of intense stress or who suffers from sleep disorders. This man therefore has risk factors for erectile disorders, but everything still functions normally. If he then goes through a period of prolonged sexual abstinence, whether voluntary or involuntary, when resuming his sexual activity, he risks noticing that his erections are no longer as effective as before. Restarting the erectile mechanism can prove more difficult and sometimes require temporary restart treatment. Fortunately, there are now effective treatments that allow to restart this mechanism quickly. Why does this situation occur? It is not only because of abstinence, but rather because abstinence was added to pre-existing risk factors. It is mainly these risk factors that are responsible. Abstinence only reveals or triggers the underlying problem. Let us take another example with a woman who is going through the period of perimenopause or menopause. This woman could, when resuming her sexual life, notice certain discomforts at the vaginal level, arousal difficulties, lack of natural lubrication or even slight pain. These symptoms are simply linked to the hormonal changes of menopause that occurred while her sexual life was interrupted. There was therefore no natural maintenance of the organ during this period of hormonal transition. Obviously, one should never force themselves to have sexual relations during these difficult periods, but if you are going through a similar phase, it is wise to consult a doctor to obtain appropriate treatments that will facilitate the resumption of comfortable sexual activity. As you can see, it is not sexual abstinence itself that directly causes these sexual disorders. On the other hand, the existence of a fragile underlying condition combined with a period of abstinence can indeed require a restart treatment when resuming sexual activity. Fourth statement, sexual abstinence stimulates and increases our testosterone significantly. I have already dedicated specific videos to this complex subject that you can consult, and I will summarize the main conclusions for you. First, in the short term, sexual abstinence, whether in women or men, could indeed slightly stimulate our hormonal levels. However, the scientific evidence is not perfectly clear on this precise point. It is possible that this temporarily improves testosterone in the hours, days or possibly the weeks that follow. But in the medium and long term, there are no lasting positive consequences. We even wonder if on the contrary there would not be a progressive negative effect. The probable explanation is that the body, notably the axis between the pituitary and testicles, will react by adapting to this new situation. The brain will interpret the absence of sexual activity as a signal that the organism does not particularly need a high level of testosterone at that moment. Especially if at the same time there is not much physical activity or sport to compensate, the body will gradually put the machine to rest. When resuming sexual life, it may then take time for the hormonal secretions to restart naturally and return to their optimal level. So to synthesize, in the short-term abstinence could perhaps slightly improve hormonal secretions, but in the medium and long term it does not improve them and can even play negatively on hormonal balance. Fifth and final statement, which is probably one of the most widespread ideas concerning sexual abstinence. Sexual abstinence allows to refocus on truly important aspects in the couple, to concentrate on the quality of the effective relationship, on the emotional dimension and on reconnecting deeply together. This statement is true, but only on condition that both partners are entirely in agreement to undertake this approach together. If this is not the case, one of the two partners will inevitably feel frustration and resentment. This approach is also particularly true in periods where there are questions to resolve in the couple relationship, small or big misunderstandings, unresolved conflicts, or when coming out of a particularly difficult period. In these moments, it can be very beneficial to say, listen, for the moment we put our sexuality in parentheses, we are going to truly find each other again, ensure that we understand each other better and reconnect on the affective level. We will see later for sexuality if we wish to resume it or not, but the important thing is that both agree on this common project. If this condition is respected, this approach can be extremely beneficial for the couple relationship as a whole. So if you undertake sexual abstinence with the specific objective of refocusing on important things in your couple, then you must refocus actively and concretely on these essential aspects. It is not about passively waiting for things to improve on their own, but about adopting a proactive approach that is constructive. I sincerely hope that this video has brought you valuable insights and that you have discovered new information on this complex subject. Do not hesitate to tell me in the comments if you had anticipated all these notions, which ones surprised you the most, those you already knew perfectly. If you have personally experimented with sexual abstinence, share if it had positive effects for you or on the contrary less favorable consequences. And remember, if you encounter sexual difficulties, whether coming out of an abstinence phase or for any other reason, do not let the situation drag on for months and months. If these difficulties negatively impact you daily, quickly consult a specialized doctor or teleconsult on our platform if it is more practical and accessible for you. I am currently preparing many other videos on a multitude of health subjects that will certainly interest you. Take good care of yourself and see you very soon for new enriching content.